June
Hey,
28th,
ladies and
Selectmen's
gentlemen.
meeting,
Hi,
2021.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chief, Assistant Chief.
Sir? I think that's what they were talking about.
Is this my seat?
Good afternoon, everybody.
My kids are here.
Yeah.
My son, I sold your rig is sold out of business,
Oh,
is
I
that
see,
right?
that was somebody in there.
That's the scuttle I heard.
Yeah,
I saw him yesterday, James.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it was?
Yeah. Turned, Angela's 29, so she turned 30.
Yeah.
How come the hoses aren't running so we can cool off over there? Huh? What's the matter, Pat?
How are you, sir?
Good.
Sir? It is a
Call
warm
the
one
meeting
today.
to order, and we'll have, pledge allegiance, Mr. Marconi.
Absolutely. You want Mr. Long?
Yeah, Colonel,
Sure, why
you
don't you
lead
do
us.
it? You do it,
please.
Colonel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Approve the minutes of May 20th and June 1st.
I reviewed them, Mr. Chairman, and I like what they did, so I'll make the motion to accept them.
I'll second that.
Second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote. Manifest approval, $63,418.86 dated May 20th, $12,955.32 dated 5/27/21, $330,750.61 dated June 3rd, 21, $101,239 dated June 10th, 23,627 dated June 17th, and $27,038.73 dated June 24th, 21.
So moved.
Second, discussion? All that reading, you only get a yes or a no?
That's all you need. You're long-winded, we know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Facility use,
Gonna go all together?
fine with me.
I'll make a motion, we allow the facilities for the 3 people applicants.
Yeah, the old town hall for ultimate frisbee,
Yeah.
lacrosse,
Yeah.
Newington Town Church, supper October 16th, and the Newington Church Town Hall craft fair November 13th.
Second, first.
Most,
Yeah.
Second.
second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Town budget,
Uh-huh.
Cheryl, welcome,
Thank you so
glad to
much.
have you here.
I'm glad to be here, my first budget meeting.
And it's nice to have Ellen here too. She gives a hard time.
Eleanor.
Ay, ay, ay.
We'll turn it right over to you, Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you, it's a good report and good cover.
Yes, I read it over the weekend, thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to recognize Martha, who did the big lift on this, who walked me through my very first attempt with this. I'm still getting to understand the difference between Franklin County and Cumberland County.
Yeah, a little different.
Yes, yes, yes. So you have the summary, the executive summary that Martha put together. Is it worth it to read through it, or are there questions that you'd like to address?
I read through it.
Have you ever been up to, want to review it, or do you wanna?
Go ahead, I'll catch up.
Okay,
All right.
we have questions on it, maybe that was easy rather than,
I would think so.
yeah.
I see you got a couple of overrides, there's a couple of lines in here, but that's not uncommon for us to have that as we go through the process, you know, because we can't always lock things down permanently. Sometimes you have a little flexibility to this, so that doesn't scare me too much, but overall, it looks like the report's coming good. Is that true, Martha? We looking good?
Yes, and we have some good news. Actually, number 9
Yes.
talks about the fire department detail line.
Yeah.
And that expense is up to $79,000.
Okay.
And Cheryl had some good news.
Yes, that was our point of concern last week when we went
Right.
through our initial analysis.
Right.
That it was so large, a large expenditure, and
Right.
really not budgeted for at all. So we reached out to Vashon and Cookie, our auditors, just to ask for the audit treatment.
Right.
Because, as you can see, the fire department is billing for those expenses, and actually billing gross. So
Right.
they anticipate profit from
Yeah,
in excess of revenue
Right.
from that. So they said as far as the accounting, although we can't net them together in the expense line.
Mhm.
but
what
but
they
they end
can-
up as a wash.
Yes,
Right,
they said
right.
we'll have unanticipated revenue and unanticipated expenditures.
Yeah,
Right.
And then said, this piece that I wanted to bring out.
But we have to make sure it's recorded both in there so we can see it.
And yes, on both sides,
She
and they
has
said,
a question.
I have a handout if you want to see the actual breakdown of those details specifically,
perfect.
if you're
Mhm. And,
interested.
Oh,
and
that'd
what-
be helpful, thank you, Chief.
that's awesome.
And this is as of, you need a copy?
All set?
So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
And just to conclude what they said in the final statement,
Yeah,
they said, by the selectmen voting to accept that as unanticipated revenue that essentially gives the town an increase in both the revenues and expenditures budget, the town will essentially receive a boost in its budget for these two lines that will negate any issues with overspending their
Perfect.
expenditures. out.
perfect, that's good, that's what we need. Thank you for doing the checkup on it.
So we will need a vote
Yep.
at some point from the selectmen
today,
to, that would be great.
okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yep, so
Just
to
remind
vote
us
to
so we don't leave without it.
The other thing is pleasing that we're healthy with the cash status and
Yeah,
the money's coming in for tax revenue like that. And
Mhm.
this is a big week, I think the 1st of July is
halfway through.
yeah, well,
What's
the
due?
tax is due,
Yeah.
so it's coming in well and healthy, so
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah, after the COVID situation, we were very concerned about, actual cost and money coming in to make sure the town can run properly,
Yes.
pay our employees and so forth. That was my biggest concern. And I think it was a concern well looked into and well handled by the selectmen here, not that I'm taking the credit for it, I think the other board members as well. But I think the town is healthy because we did the right thing at the time.
I think it is too.
Okay,
It
great.
looked very good at the end of, at this point in June, as of June 28th. I saw a significant customer,
Oh.
taxpayer, came in last week
Okay.
at 1.9.
Because we had some concerns, the big company not paying their bills on time, that was our
Yeah.
concern. But thank you for that.
Just a sidelight. The middle mall, the Newington Mall, the old Newington Park.
That's it.
We had it assessed for 12 million plus, and they just sold for 13
Mhm.
million plus, which was, with all the
Non-
top and all and
non-abatable.
everything else, it's a
Not
nice.
abatable, you can't abate them, can they?
Yeah,
Yeah, I do.
so that was healthy for,
Makes us look good.
as far as the revenue, assessment goes. Any other question, or Cheryl, or anything, Bob, or Michael?
No, like I said, I read the report, I understand most of it, and I'm pleased that we're in a good financial position that we are at this time. Thank you, Cheryl, I think you're doing a good job as your new
Thank you very
hole
much.
plugger the hole, putting all the right numbers in the right place, with Martha's carrying the load a little bit.
To say Martha is carrying quite a bit of the load, and I really appreciate her guidance.
That's
She's been-
part of her training, she'll be a good trainer. And thank you for this, chief. Anything
Absolutely.
you want to add to this, if you'd like, I'll be glad to listen to it. How about you, Mr. Chairman? No?
Yeah, go ahead.
No?
Yeah, so as Cheryl was saying, so the town so far has taken in, or we've billed out and taken back in $71,424 of that money.
Okay.
So,
That's
May's
ambulance? That's
payment-
ambulance?
what's that?
Ambulance? I'm sorry.
No, this is strictly the COVID.
Oh,
No, this,
okay.
we're talking about COVID.
This is strictly the COVID.
Services.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
So we have taken in 71,000, we're anticipating, so if you look at like the second group of things,
Yep.
May's payment of 23,000 and change,
Mhm.
that could be in any day now. In June's, that COVID clinic is closing June 30th, so
Right.
this Wednesday or whatever. So once we have those numbers, there'll be a little bit more added to those numbers on the anticipated.
Mhm.
But once that closes, then we have June's numbers all together, then we'll send that bill out. So we should have that, probably middle of July-ish or so, and
Okay.
then we'll be closed out. So out of this, so far, this is the anticipation of what we're gonna have. The town itself has made just over $8,700 on your side for admin fees.
Good,
Okay,
thank you.
good.
Thank you very
Chief.
much. Any other questions?
No, I'm all set.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Chief, how are you people doing with, the extra duty? Do they like it, or do they not like it, or
It's
they chuckle?
It's a
Why?
select few, I don't wanna say a select few, but it's a handful of them that are doing the clinics. I mean, it's good for them, but, you know, it is what it is. It's actual work. It's not like they're sitting around not doing anything. They're actually there working, putting in the hours, so.
When it first started in February, it was, a lot of people were doing it, it was a really great thing.
Mhm.
As it's progressed longer than I think most people were kind of anticipating, and it's definitely teetered off the amount of people that we have, which is not just Newington seeing that, they're having a higher difficulty filling shifts. Fortunately, the number of vaccines given daily has kind of tapered off, so at this point, I think the state's probably upside down on what it actually costs, because last run, they were running about 22 people a day in Newington, so. There's a lot of staff there for only 22 people, considering it's staff for 1,500.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's probably good it's ending the end of the month.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We had to have a motion.
You know,
Well,
now
wait on
hearing
that.
the chiefs mention that it's going to be
Before this is finished.
mid-July before we have
Right.
the final
No,
numbers.
wait to get the final number, don't make a motion.
That's
Well,
fine.
if that's okay,
Yeah.
we'll wait till mid-July to give
Yeah, and then
you.
everything should be
Thank you.
done and over with as far as
Right.
the COVID stuff.
Right, okay.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Carol, anything
That's
you
right.
wish to add?
No, I think we covered it fairly
Good,
well.
thank you so much for
Thank you
coming,
very much.
appreciate it.
Great,
You're done.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great day,
You
everybody.
too.
You too.
I
Keep
have
up the
been
good work.
If we need me, you accept this.
Okay, we can go to, well,
Eversource?
is person gonna be able to be here?
Eric is going to be here at 5.
Okay. You wanna,
No, I just move on the agenda. I just
okay,
wanted
that's
to
what I was gonna say,
make
we can
sure
move the agenda for waiting for Eric.
Yeah, Eric is gonna be here, right?
Yeah.
It's probably way better
that-
with.
No, okay, yeah, thank you. All right, we'll move on to appointments.
Martin Callahan is requested to be appointed to the Recreation Committee.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
he's been on the Recreation Committee in the past, he
Yeah.
just didn't put his
Done a
name in
good
early
job.
and wants to be on it. He's always been very active, appreciative, yeah. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote. New business, fire station projects.
The board has a memo that we received from the fire chief and engineers
Yeah,
relative to what to do with the rest of the fire station funds for maintenance for the rest of the year.
you do realize that we put in a lot of money, we put in probably $60,000 or $70,000 that the budget committee took out of the budget, so that's why we were ended up and wanted to do more things, but, you know, it was a lean year for everybody, and the budget committee in their wisdom, which they sometimes don't agree with, cut a lot of things, and this is one of them that they cut, so we can't have the extra spending, but that's just for to say this now. We have 11K remaining, and,
And what's the $800 for, to put those doors in?
So the two doors that went in the new addition from the apparatus bay into that first room where the washer and dryer and extractor are.
Okay, yeah,
And then the door going from that room into the actual negative pressure room,
okay,
they're both solid doors.
yeah,
So when somebody's either walking through in or out, we've had a couple near misses with people almost getting struck by the door. So we wanna just put some glass panels in them,
okay.
and that was the cost of the glass
And you
panels.
gonna handle the labor,
Well,
so?
yeah, that's the cost to order for the materials, and we'll install it.
okay,
I don't have a
I
problem
have a
with that.
problem with that.
We don't have a problem with that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And as far as the survey that you alluded to in here, we just completed a 67-page survey, and we never got a report back. The last I heard, this is from memory now, I haven't asked him, the last thing was, you were working on it, you implemented a lot of things, which I knew you would implement a lot of, but we never saw a final report of what you had completed, what you haven't
Okay,
completed.
I can get that, yeah.
And I'd just like to see that, just to show
No,
us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But just remember though, that study was on essentially the operations side of
I
it.
understand, but, you
And
know,
I'm more looking for like a needs, space assessment, and building engineering to make sure, because I know we've talked about the potential of a second floor, this and that, and to make sure that the building can support a second floor. Because my concern is I don't wanna go and spend however much money on a drawing or design or something, and then, oh, we can't do that because the building doesn't support it.
I think what we're gonna do is, I've not discussed this with anybody, I think we're gonna do this slowly, we're gonna hire an engineer to come in and see if the building can take it. And then if we get that done, then we can do studies, we can do a lot of other things. But
Yeah.
You
let's,
want a structural engineer?
structural engineer, and I don't have any idea what they, but I think it'll be kind of a minimal type cost compared to a big study or anything at this time. So I would think that, we can do that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, but just remember that those are two different things, an engineering study to see if the building will take it. But I'm also looking at, so last year or the year before, when I asked for the $25,000 for a study to be done, that was the whole operations and the building space needs analysis. So combined for the 25,000. So when you guys did the operations essentially side of it for
Right.
12, this I guess is the second half of that piece, so.
Before we get into it, I'd rather see if the building can take it.
Oh, absolutely. And I
Right.
think-
That's what before we proceed.
If I may interject, Mr. Chairman,
Please,
it was my understanding that at the time we sat down with the budget committee, they said that the two chiefs should be able to do what they need to give us a study of what that building could be used for. Now, that was the reasoning why the money was not there at the time. They were the ones that said, you guys should have, you know more what's gonna be done in that building than we would know about it. And they suggested that you do it. So I'm kinda lost in the conversation.
So I'm fine with the fact that people entrust in us, that Pat and I both know the construction side of it, because we've been in it for years.
Yeah, right.
But unfortunately, he knows as well as I do that I can come to town meeting and say this, that we need this, and they're just gonna be, that's the fire department saying that they need something. As opposed to if we had a study done or an assessment, that has
Well,
the
at the time,
third party horsepower.
at the time, the budget committee didn't want to spend the funds for it. That was their bone of contention at the time.
Right.
And I didn't agree with it. At the time, I agreed with you, I didn't agree with them, okay?
Right.
But they ruled the party at the time, so nothing I could do about it. So now I'm kind of perplexed. I see your hand up, so I know I wasn't calling you, but I want to get my twos out first. Go ahead.
One of the things that comes up in a building construction background, and Chief and I have talked about this several times, is the order in which projects need to be done. I brought this up with Martha when we got talking about making the 2 bathrooms on the bunk room side ADA compliant. They've talked about a second floor, we've talked about needing more bay space, there's the asbestos tile that needs to be addressed, there's windows that potentially need repair. Part of this architect or engineer seeing if the building will take an addition falls into the order in which things should be done, so we can do some strategic long-term planning for that building. Because there's no sense to dump $5,000 or $8,000 into making a bathroom compliant. If 3 years from now, we're looking to remove those bathrooms because they're gonna be upstairs. So,
I understand that. Being a member of the planning board for years, I'm a long-range planner, always have
Correct.
been, and I understand where you're going at. But my concern again was the budget committee, who pulled the rug out from a lot of us for different reasons, they cut you guys as well on that. And I don't know if that's gonna fly with them down the line. So what I'm saying to you is, I've got the reservations of where we can go and how we can approach it, okay?
But I do agree that in engineering study, absolutely.
Well, you do what
Just-
you
Because
do
I
what-
mean, I've talked to Larry and Skip, hey, what do you think, you know, because they were here back then when it was built. You
Yeah,
know, and I've had Skip come up and he's like, oh, those are cinder block, those aren't concrete, those won't support anything more. That's great, Skip, but.
but he's not an engineer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he can put it back together for you. Between your father and him, he can do almost anything.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely there. I agree with that.
But I would think we would start with an engineering to see if the building, what it is and what it
Absolutely.
can handle first, before we get a long range, the plans, why do a long range plan if the building isn't gonna have one?
How would
Structurally
we,
or anything else.
Mr. Chairman, how would we look for we're gonna have to, I'm looking at a cost in my head for some reason. Are we looking at Altus, are we looking at somebody else, are we looking at?
Structural question.
So I will tell you, I reached out to Martha, so when we did the whole two-way communications, EOC radio project stuff that we
Yeah,
for the grant things, one of the things that Bill from Two-Way pointed out was that our base for the antenna was had some cracks and some spalling on it. So Martha said, go ahead and reach out to Eric at Altus to see if he has somebody, and he gave me the name of somebody.
okay.
So
So you got somebody we can talk with?
if you want, I mean, I can get the name to Martha or to Kevin.
I'll let
and have
I think it
them-
would be a good idea to look at least 3 firms and for
Yes.
the board to
that's how I wanna do it, I just.
I can forward it to Martha or Kevin. or
Yeah.
I want at least 3 concerns on this.
Yeah, okay, so
It's
we'll,
not-
we'll
yeah.
move on that.
Okay.
Anything else we have to take up at this time?
Thank you.
You all
Anything
set?
else you wanna bring up at this time? We'll move,
No, I mean, unless if you're good with that,
okay.
All right.
we're good with that, yeah, and I'll get that info to.
I just need a little clarification, chief, that's all, in my head was still stuck with the
Nope.
We
budget.
need a motion on that, Martha, or just, we can just move it?
No, we just move forward with it.
Okay.
All right,
All
great,
right,
thank you.
the next thing is a letter from John Radigan, regarding the K-9 trust continuing resolution. We have an explanation, continue the trust for another year commencing on February 1, 2021, and continuing to February 2022. And the 22 town meeting put it on that for a town vote, so I would entertain a motion, if we agree, to proceed with the recommendation of our attorney, Mr. Radigan.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second it if I may speak to it.
Please.
I concur with what the process is. I would not be interested in trying to sell a town on having a long-term 5 or 6 year thing. I like to have this renewed every year, so we know in fact that the dog is being used properly, not that they're not, I'm not saying they're not, but I'm just saying, you know, there are other entities in the state that can use the dog, like the state, the PDA, and the Port Authority, that thing. So to make sure we get some revenue, that's there for us to do, but my concern would be to give them a yearly warrant article and have them vote on it. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Well, the reason I think Mr. Radigan recommends this way, that we don't have to do it every year.
I know,
This is
I know.
for, you could probably, suppose you could put a 5-year on it, or something like that, a renewable of 5 years. Doesn't matter to me, but.
Well, what's the life expectancy of the dog?
That's a good question. Bill?
I
do you
imagine,
know?
I imagine when
I
they
know
go
you're not
down,
the
it gets a
dog
little
expert.
old and lame, they got another dog in the wings coming
Right,
in, you know,
right.
I think it's perpetual.
So that's, that's another question. That's, I don't have a problem with it. They have a dog that's coming in training, you know,
Well,
but
I think,
I would assume they would do
yeah,
that.
I mean.
Well, the one they have in Young, if the life expect, or working life
Life.
expectancy is
8 years?
10 years or
8
whatever, then, you know, if we vote on it year after year after year, I think we're wasting our time. I think we're just vote
Okay.
for and, you know, let's hear from the chief what the working expectancy of the dog is, and we'll run it out to the end of that. You know, because if we.
I'll go
if
on.
we-
I agree with the life of the dog involved, and I
If we
understand
cut
where
the
you're
dog,
coming
if we cut the dog program off short, I think we've wasted a lot of funds leading up to it.
from. I agree with that totally. I agree with it.
It's
I like the
a little
idea.
fundraiser anyway.
Right.
So how do you wanna leave it, just wait?
Have you voted on the motion?
No.
Not yet.
No, we
Okay.
voted,
Just
we
made the
made the
vote.
motion, we not voted on it, because I wanted to see if there was a little more clarification in my mind.
Got
And
it.
if
So
we-
we at least need to vote on this motion,
Right.
and then the board can determine how you want to formulate the town meeting warrant.
Second, yeah, all right. So why
Okay,
don't
we
we
can do it
vote,
that
why
way.
don't we vote on
Okay.
Hannah's recommendation, and we'll do, after we talk with the chief, we'll come back for the warrant.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Opposed? Vote.
thank you. Didn't mean to delay things.
Water level at the pond, that will be when Eric comes, right?
I think so.
The next thing is Stone School painting and deed review. We had a meeting today with our attorney Radigan to discuss this. I don't know, Dennis, if he's talked to you yet or not, but we talked, came up with an idea of maybe the school, make it workforce housing. I don't know how many units you're putting in, 4, 6?
What school?
The old Stone
Old
School.
Old Stone School.
This was an idea Radigan came up with this morning and discussed it with, it's preliminary. And, we thought, we told him to sit down with you and sit down with John Krebs and see what you can work out and see if it can be back favorable. We gotta do something with the school, it's falling apart.
I know we tried to do trying to get a business in there years ago to be part of it, like an office type thing.
Right.
Right.
Um,
So now,
the issue comes up with, up there is, I don't know, this is the first I'm hearing about it, so I don't know.
yeah, well, there's a
It's
ton of stuff that has to be.
Sewer's always been the issue.
Yeah,
The what has always been the issue?
Septic, septic.
Oh,
yeah. So why don't we let you talk with John and get together with, Radigan, excuse me,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, let them decide what they think they can and can't do, and we'll help pick up the ball later if we can, but we just thought maybe we ought to look at something, Dennis, to do something with that building, it's been sitting since I've been here, 19 years.
We'll have to change the zoning.
Well, those are things that John brought up, the attorney Radigan brought up, those things that we felt that it was in your domain, and he said he was gonna sit with you and
That's why
John
I
perhaps.
sent it to you.
This is only from 9 to 10 o'clock this morning and at 4 this afternoon, so I think the poor guy hasn't had a chance to reach out to you yet.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah, so I think, but I just should throw this out, review it with him, come back and let us know what's going on, and if it doesn't look feasible, we'll move on to
Have
another.
you talked to John Krebs about it?
Haven't talked to anybody about this. This is the first we've talked about it.
This is the first time it's been
Well,
notified.
in fairness, you should know about it, Dennis, and that's why I brought it out here today.
Appreciate it.
I don't know, I think the more you read this agreement, you know, without the express written permission of the New Hampshire State Historic Preservation Office on construction, alterations, remodeling, demolition, disturbance of the ground surfaces, I think our hands are tied. I think the Air Force wrote an airtight contract and we're locked into it.
Towns should have accepted it.
I agree with that, but John seems to think they can maybe work with it, so that's why he mentioned talk with Dennis and see if there's a way they can work.
And he talked with
Yeah,
the state.
that was a, I remember that when that happened.
Oh,
I said, do not accept that contract.
yeah,
Because what they do, there's a federal law that says any old building that's considered historic in nature, it just can be old, that they can pass along that to towns and other private entities, but the federal law follows the property. And that's what they're quoting. They're quoting that particular federal law, and they have everything there. I mean, it is, but I ask myself the question, who's gonna be there to enforce it? Because they don't.
well, usually it ends up, I've done about 6 or 8 of these buildings in Portsmouth. Usually the architect comes in with the engineers and they have to go, I'll tell you how ridiculous, did one building and we couldn't match the mortar. We're doing a build, and match the mortar about the size of that, picture.
Yeah.
And a big, 5-6-story building and to replace it. The only place we could find mortar, the sand to mix the mortar, was in New Jersey. We sent a truck down to New Jersey, you get a truckload of sand, that's where you get your tax credits, write-offs and everything else in this thing, it's horrendous, when you have to do what they want. They come down and inspect it, the bastards.
The Navy Yard, the State Preservation and Historic, SHPO, State
Yeah.
Preservation, State Historical and Office of whatever, anyways. The SHPO basically is the one who does a lot of enforcement of that.
Yeah.
That's come down from the state. But at the Navy Yard, as an example, we had some buildings there that the old wooden frame windows, they were gonna replace it with vinyl.
No, yeah,
It looks exactly like painted wood. They said, absolutely not.
right.
And they made them do it, they had to go find somebody that could do the
Mill it.
windows, cause and mill it out, it's a custom job.
Yeah.
It cost them
10 times.
like $100,000 for a couple windows. It was nuts. And they weren't allowed to put in a thermal pane
No.
window, they had to go single pane.
Yeah,
It was just nuts.
We're gonna leave you and John Radigan,
the handle.
John Krebs to handle that.
I got your phone number.
Oh.
I just moved. What's saying in time? Okay, we go on to FEMA.
Martha, would you talk to John about that? In case I don't get it. I just wanna make sure we don't forget it. I just wanna make sure we get it all connected. I'm gonna see him, but I wanna make sure we don't forget it.
The workforce housing, Stone
About the
School?
housing at the Stone School, yeah. Is there a builder that's interested or anything? Don't know. Okay.
No.
It's just an idea.
Just
Yeah,
remember-
we're scrambling.
Right.
Could be a fire station, but the chief doesn't want it.
We can train him.
Years ago, they came
The
up with an
location's
idea.
great.
It's been trained out, I think, it's been worn out by.
Years ago, that was actually a thought and was never followed through, but one of the things that the planning board did kick around is keeping the front, the facade of the building.
Oh,
and
yeah.
But the back would be added on to make the entire fire station. It was just the front, literally the walls and the front facade. Everything else was gonna be gutted out and so that was an idea of making it the town fire station. And it would be a great location.
I was gonna say, geographically, it's perfect for response. I mean, they have to pave Arboretum, but other than that, it'd be perfect for us,
Yeah.
because otherwise we break
Good
these
luck with
springs
getting
on.
that done.
Yeah.
That might
Well,
be,
they paid part of Arboretum last week or two.
Just not that much.
Oh, it's worse now than, they put the patch down, it's worse now than what? I think they paid it every time with hand grenades. Make the hole bigger and wider. All right, we'll move on. Martha,
We are ready to submit a grant application for FEMA, that's for all of the remaining COVID expenses that are eligible. We request that the board allow us to apply for a total of up to $11,000.
you need a motion?
So
Yes,
moved.
Seconded.
Second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go get him, Martha.
Now you got it.
Thank you.
What expenses did we have?
You name it. Everything from the police department had to perform runs down at the Fox Run Mall for when they were worried about looting, to some employees were out either on quarantine because they had become exposed or for some other reason, and we had to cover those shifts. Simple stuff like the PPE supplies, runs the gamut.
Okay.
And of course, we had 18,000 that we've already applied for and received from the Gopher grants for COVID.
Okay, do we vote on that?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, okay.
Who's he?
All right, we'll move on to video recordings of the meeting.
In your tab under video, we put a list that Eleanor's completed of all of the various tape recordings and how many hours we expect that would take
Good
through
job,
the
Eleanor.
course of the year.
That took some time.
And then you all had requested a list of rules of how this would work, and we've taken a stab at it for your review. That's also under that tab.
Do we know of any other towns that have a list of rules or
No, but you know, I have
standard
not,
SOPs?
yeah, I haven't ever seen it discussed among the towns, but I could inquire.
Is there a state law that mandates?
This is a promise about historically. This came up 2 or 3 years ago at the budget committee.
Just last September, right?
Well, before
Oh,
that, they
yeah.
came, in conversation, because they were always recording the selectmen and the budget committee meetings, and
So,
and as it kept going. But last September, it came to a head, and the budget committee asked the selectmen if they'd do it. We said, well, we're happy to comply with it and do it with all departments, and from the school board, fire, police, everybody. And they said they'd give us $6,000-ish for this. Then when it came to the budget, they took the $6,000 out, but they still asked us to continue with the recording and the taping of the minutes. And I have no problem with that, and I think we can get around it. But informally, I think we'll talk to the fire, informally we'll talk to the police. They have the equipment, they can do it. We don't have to send somebody over to do it. If the person who does the meeting, or somebody on there could do it, and then they keep for their own record, they flash it, I don't understand all this, but you send it over here for our website, so the people could do it. And a lot of people like to look, they can't come to meetings, they like to sit at home, they're interested. Today's agenda got 10, 15 different things, they might just wanna not watch one thing. They don't wanna come and sit here like Bill for the whole afternoon, he just wants to see what happens with his particular presentation. And I think
Cooler
it,
in here.
huh?
It's cooler in here.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't got it hot enough yet, Mike. You know, I can see it as a value to the people, and the people have asked for it, and many people have stopped and asked for it. I have no problem in doing it. If we go back to the main sheet that Eleanor did, and then look at this, there's 278 hours per year that we'll probably have to hire or record. This is a guesstimate and a very good guesstimate. But if we took out the selectmen, fire engineers, police commission, and budget committee, and some of the, and if they did their own, we could cut that line down. about in half, to about 138 hours, as compared to 140. And we might be able to cut that, so I don't think, I don't think we have to have full-time people covering all these meetings, if we can get everybody to agree. And I know, the deputy chief informally, he and I talked one time, and he thought that they could do it, because they have the equipment, and it's not a big burden to them.
What does the storage look like for, I mean, if we're recording 278, that's hours. What's the gigabytes for that? Can our current infrastructure handle that? Do we have enough data storage?
The way we do it right now is we'll upload it to YouTube and delete it from the iPad. So what's on YouTube is the final storage. The only videos that I have kept are the ones that we took on Zoom through the years. So if they're Zoom, then they're on our hard drive.
What's the state law as far as, if we record a meeting, does that become official government property, official correspondence? And does that have to be saved in perpetuity for how many years, and what storage? Those are the questions that I was asking the last time.
So not to my knowledge, there's no requirement, and I can double check, that we keep a video that the town has recorded.
I think we would.
Done?
Okay.
I didn't know you were gonna be discussing this today, but I'm glad I'm here. I am not in favor of video recording, and I'm gonna tell you the reasons why. We have a bunch of volunteers in our town who like to volunteer, but don't necessarily like to have their face posted out for the entire world to see. In this day of security concerns and ID theft, people are going in and clipping people's photos on YouTube and creating false IDs. It's just one part of many parts, several parts that they would need to create a false identification and steal your identity. And it's happened. It's already happened. Someone I know, it happened at the Navy Yard. They're into deep trouble because of that, and it took them a lot of money and a lot of time to get out of it. But the other part of it is that volunteers are very shy about having their mug pasted on YouTube. They really are. And whether you believe it or not, a lot of people are saying, I don't know if I wanna be a part of I don't know if I wanna be a volunteer in the town because of that. We have a problem getting volunteers. And it just bothers me that the videos are coming in, they're not at the applicant, they're pointing at the members of the board. The applicant is one giving out all the information, and I look at that as a form of intimidation to the
Well, I
board.
think that's probably education among the boards, how we do this, and how we can set up, and how we can position a camera to be sure that it gets all inclusive.
So this is not something that, as far as I know, that anyone was asking for the planning board to be recorded and put out there, because as far as I know, there's been no request to that part. The other part is that I know is that the more we become like Portsmouth and their video recording, the more formal and the less they get done. Right now, we have very informal meetings. People sometimes step on it, they say things they don't wanna say, or probably will say publicly. But now if it's being recorded, I feel it's gonna be used against them. So you know what they do? They shut up.
Have you noticed that, Dennis, that I don't speak much?
I don't see you much more anymore, Mike.
That's the reason.
Bill?
Yeah, I believe there is an RSA that says that if a member of the public, me, walks in here and wants to videotape and audio record this meeting,
Yes.
you can't deny me
That's correct.
that right.
That's
I
correct.
think that's about all
Right.
the RSA's say about video recording.
Yeah?
I've received significant,
Yeah.
About the meeting, or he's got tied up at his office, he's gonna be here a few minutes late, he's leaving right now, so I
Great.
don't know what time you expect him, but
Whatever he
An
gets,
hour
I
ago.
guess.
so he'll be here shortly.
Thank you, John.
I've received significant feedback from the constituents that elected me as a fire engineer. They are not sitting at home watching hours of video to see what happened. The minutes are clear. A resident scans the minutes, goes to the issue they want to go to. What happened? Do I need to make a phone call? Do I need more information? Do I need to call the chief by scanning the minutes, it encapsulates what occurred in that meeting. No one, correction, no resident, and there have been a number of them that have contacted me, are sitting at home watching hours of videotape of board meetings. That's not how people obtain their information today. That's not how they're spending their time. The minutes are concise, they go from there. That's the feedback that I have had. The budget committee was very clear in saying the town cannot employ a person to record these meetings. The chairman of the board that is holding a meeting is responsible for delivering that meeting to the residents. So, to me, to create more infrastructure, more work is unnecessary because it's not fruitful. And yes, to speak to Bill Wright's point, I can quote the RSA that says any person can take notes, record, post, you cannot prevent. That is under freedom of speech, First Amendment.
That's correct.
And the planning board has been recording our meeting, not video recording, but voice record, audio recording for years. And Jane does like almost like a court, like almost like a stenographer. I mean, you look at her stuff that she puts in the minutes, she captures everything. You know, so it's.
The minutes of the meeting that I have with the budget committee, the Belanger thanked Emily for streaming the town meeting. We'd like to see the board of Selectmen find a way to stream and record the meetings. Watch videos of the meeting is the most accurate information we can get. And Brandon asked if there was money in the budget for this. Emily said the library had equipment. Ladshaw said the committee should record the meetings and have them available. John Lamb suggested a new line be added to the 21 budget for that purpose.
And they did that.
And they left $1 in that budget, if I remember right.
If they left that, I don't think they left anything, to be honest with you. I think that they cut it out. They, you know, it was a hedge, to the selectmen's budget, so they did a good job of it. But, we said we would do it, and all I ask is cooperation. People don't want to
They asked us
cooperate.
to do it.
There's no.
Their intent was, and the conversation following that was, that the recorder, for instance, Eleanor is here, the recorder would do double duty, taking minutes and recording, if the board so choose. Because there's
My understanding was all
no
boards.
expense to the
Yeah, but I don't remember that.
I don't remember, my understanding was that it would record all boards.
Right.
And why single out a board? Why single out the planning board? Why
That
single out
becomes
the selectmen?
discriminatory then.
Well,
You can't do
yeah,
that.
we're gonna do them, let's do them all.
Exactly.
Steve,
that there was no money allotted for that.
understand, we concur,
Right.
we'll agree on that.
A quick point that I think needs to be investigated more, as Selectman Bellonia was talking about with the legal behind it. Chief and I just sat through a class last Friday. Any recording done with town equipment, with someone who is on duty of any type, so if I use my personal phone or my department phone and I am in uniform, that becomes a matter of public record.
Correct.
So it gets beyond that meeting and the longevity of meeting minutes and whatnot, and becomes a matter of public record, to the point, if a photograph is taken of me recording something, they can then use that photograph to say, hey, where is this, and subpoena every record of anything that I've ever taken on any device.
Correct.
So I think legal needs to investigate this pretty heavily before we start mandating. That's just my opinion, because we may be opening ourselves up to potential lawsuits in the future that have already happened, and there's some case law on nationwide, and it's
If I
above
may-
New Hampshire RSA.
If I may address Mr. Hebert's comment, what would stop somebody coming in and doing it on their own and then doing what you just said, taking them, photographing and making an ID?
Nothing, I just don't understand why one board's doing it to another. It seems like it's. Let me finish, let me answer.
Hold, no, let me answer.
Let me answer Mike's question. Why is it when one board, taking a picture of another board and looking at the board members only and not the applicant?
What
And when I object to,
What was doing that, Dennis?
selectmen.
We weren't doing that.
Martha Martha, you told me the selectmen have ordered it.
absolutely, as
Yeah.
we're discussing tonight.
Because of what the budget committee wanted us to do, Dennis.
The budget committee controls your budget and they gave you $0.
But they
But
gave us
Dennis,
that,
you understand, when the budget committee, they can reduce the overall selectmen's budget, they can't cut a line.
right.
So that, it's just the overall budget they cut by
I
6,000.
thought that was the town meeting vote.
No,
I thought they could cut a line.
The
No.
spirit of what the budget committee has said was clear.
Let me just go for that. You know, I'm not here to argue with it or anything.
I just don't think it's fair to the board members who feel intimidated by it. And
I am gonna have number one, the only thing I've heard is positive from people that if they wanna watch it, they can watch it, if they don't. I've never had anybody say they're intimidated, I've never had anybody say they don't want it to be done, or anything. Bob brings up a great point, and as does Deputy Chief. Maybe we ought to look into the legality of this a little bit more before we proceed.
Right. I
We
agree
were
with
asked by the budget committee, we were asked by Emily's, or as a citizen and as a budget committee member, and some other people, would we record the committees in the town? And we said yes. For public information, public knowledge, if it helps recruit people, helps them make them smarter, and maybe they'll come and serve some of the boards and some of the things. That's the only reason, I think even at a town meeting a couple of years ago, it was asked, will we record meetings? I said, I would be happy to record the meetings. I have no problem with, I have a slip of the tongue once in a while and off the cuff, but that's part of the game.
I've never heard of anyone asking for the planning board to be recorded. I have heard that the selectmen's request for the selectmen's meeting be recorded. That I have heard. I've never heard once of anyone asking for other boards to be recorded.
The selectmen said, we would like to record everybody.
Everybody.
And I made that public, Dennis. That's not the first time I've ever said this.
I-
I've made it all over. If we're gonna record, let's record everybody, so everybody's well informed and more. That's all.
Transparency, for transparency.
I'm not picking on the board, Dennis, I'm not picking on you, I'm not picking
Of
on
course
the
not.
police or the fire or the ZBA or the conservation or the library or the school board. I'm not picking on anybody. We're gonna share information, let's share it across the board.
My point is that it doesn't seem to be equal across the board to all boards. HDC has never been recorded as far as I know. Conservation Board, just recently, this is the first time it's been recorded. There are a lot of boards that just aren't being recorded. And the planning board it felt as though we were being looked at, no, the selectmen want you to be recorded. I said, Martha, I don't want it to be recorded. And you said, no, they want you to be recorded. Take it
Everyone,
up.
right.
So I'm going, well, why isn't everyone being recorded?
That's
You
what we
told me-
do.
And you said,
Everyone is, to the best of our ability. You know, Conservation Commission was holding meetings via Zoom, and the town planner was having those meetings. I'm not sure whether he recorded those or not. He has the ability to, but then once they went live, we absolutely started recording them. Sometimes we miss, sometimes we can't find someone to record.
So we're trying to set up a protocol. with the
I
town.
really feel it's best not to do it.
That's fine.
And I don't know why you insist on doing it when I just told you the reasons I just did. I can't prevent that, but I'm saying it's one board influencing another board. And I know that some board members, and I'll tell you that right now, some board members and people who would potentially volunteer don't want that camera in their face. They just don't.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that input. Anything else on that? We just,
Most
Can I
of the
just say
people,
one thing?
yeah.
please.
Sorry, when people have mentioned to me, planning board is a very important board in town. Selectmen and budget committee, those are the three that people wanna see. HDC, you know, not so much, but those three are very, very important that people really do care about. I haven't heard much for, other ones a little bit, but those are the three people are really, when we did the budget committee this winter, there was a lot of interest and a lot of people. That's just why your board's very important.
Well, maybe this is where we should proceed. Maybe we should have us look into the legal aspects of it to be sure that all the recordings and as Bob points out that we can, how long we have to keep it and like that, and get back and have a discussion on it at another meeting when we get everything lined up.
Do you want us to proceed in the meantime videotaping?
I'd say yes, but I'll leave it up to the others to decide. I mean, it's been helpful, people have asked if we've been doing it.
Everybody talked to me, liked it, especially, looking at, our meetings and some of Dennis's meetings and some of the other meetings. People commented to me about it, so I assumed it was doing good. This is the first negative I've heard.
I just think that if the budget committee took all the money out for the video recording, they've spoken very clearly that they're against it. Otherwise, they wouldn't put money in for it.
But they were, the year before, they were for it, Bob, so I don't understand it.
They were for it
But
last
I
year.
just don't think we don't know what the state law is on it,
No.
other than a citizen can come in. But once the town starts doing it, it becomes a public record.
I understand
And then
that.
I think that going beyond putting it on YouTube, I think we need to create a storage device, we need to have that backed up. I think we need to keep it for you know, however long state law requires.
Can it be stored in the cloud, Martha?
Sure.
I have no problem with audio recording, I really don't. It's the video part that is getting me. That's the part that I know that personal ID theft occurs. And putting it out on YouTube, is what I am concerned about. The audio part, record to your heart's content. And I think that's where most people feel. I mean, at least people were concerned about.
People I've talked to want a video, so that's.
Because there's,
We're gonna study this, so let's not, we
Yeah.
mash this all over.
Right.
We're
We'll
gonna,
talk about
we're gonna,
Move on, Mr. Chairman.
all right, the next item on the agenda is tree cutting.
Tree color.
There's a letter from the Recreation Department, a motion to remove two trees adjacent to the court was unanimously approved.
Didn't we vote to trim those trees?
Yes, you did,
Were they trimmed?
yes.
I haven't been by there since they were trimmed. I was unaware that they were trimmed.
Was last week?
Yeah, the end of last week.
Well, Bill's here, he wrote the letter. Have you seen the trees, Bill?
I did, I stopped by on the way over.
They trimmed?
So they're trimmed. I don't know how much that's costing the town each time we do it. The beautiful trees that a few people on Facebook were getting so energized about, those trees aren't so beautiful now that they're all trimmed. They're gonna continue to grow, and they're gonna continue to cost the town money to trim. You just look at the other ones, the canopy, it gets wider and taller, and they dump more crap on the courts, and the roots generally spread, whatever the canopy is above soil, that's also where the roots are going, which is right under our tennis court. And
Make it unstable.
so I think it's a practical request. Cut the two trees down. When they were planted, there's about 15, 20 trees down there. When they were planted, they looked great. Nobody looked ahead 40 years and said, how big are these trees gonna be? And we have a forest down there now, and it's unnecessary. I mean, the trees are beautiful. The other 18 trees are beautiful, but the two that were planted right next to the court are damaging the court. And the limbs have actually damaged the fence. And to be honest with you, this town relies too damn much on volunteer support. And I've been the one that's been cleaning it. It takes a lot of work. Clean the weeds out of the fence,
Yeah.
clean the debris, paying attention to the cracks on the court, all these things. I don't wanna do it.
Those courts are for town residents only, aren't they?
In theory, yeah. There's a sign on them now. I had a sign put up that says residents only.
Residents only? Well, the closest resident to those courts, Mr. Mitchell, is against cutting the trees. He likes the trees. The school, I know they go out there and they have classes underneath the trees. So we haven't heard from them on the trees. Somebody referenced somewhere about the hockey, but the two guys that take care of the hockey rink were against cutting the trees.
No, that's not true.
You're on the rec committee, aren't you?
Yes.
Right.
And the rec committee took a vote on this unanimously, cut the trees down. I guess there's some debate in this town about what falls under recreational purview and what doesn't. But these things are kind of colliding in this case, where we've got, you know, that is a recreation area. That's not the schoolyard, it's town property, and there's plenty of trees for the
Did we get
kids.
Martha, did we get a cost to cut those? What would it cost to cut those?
Yes, I believe originally it was gonna be in the $2,000 range.
Do we have a town arborist? We had one at one time.
Yeah, we
still
did have a town, that's a good
arborist?
point.
Yes.
We have them review it, look at it, and come back with a recommendation.
And we'll cut them down.
Huh?
I'll find somebody to cut them down.
Well, we gotta make sure, if we do, we gotta make sure they're insured and everything else, Bill.
Get a lot of other people in
Yes,
town.
yes.
That's the problem.
Yes,
Could you detail what damage has been done
I already
to the
have.
courts or the fence?
I've already done that.
Yeah, give us the detailed report here.
No, I'm asking, what damage has been done?
Could you provide her with a copy of the email I sent you guys?
Is it projecting damage or damage has been done?
Damage has been done, yeah.
And does the damage warrant cutting trees?
Is that the one that says, talking points related to the two trees after?
Yep.
That's it.
So one additional thing I'd like to say about this. I've now joined as a volunteer the rec committee, got involved with that group.
Thank you, Mark.
That group volunteers an enormous amount of personal time for the town. And they all understand what the issues were. I mean, I think we have a real problem in this town. It's kind of an unrelated issue, but it is related. You go over and look at the ball fields, because they haven't had a dedicated point of contact, somebody to pay attention to that ball field, that's a safety hazard and it's a mess. Because we're relying on volunteer support and nobody really knows who's responsible for that or who isn't. There's no clear direction from anywhere about who's responsible for what. So here's an example. We got a couple trees next door to the tennis court. The rec committee's being proactive. They want to take care of it. Everybody voted in favor of removing those trees, given the information that was provided. And for me personally, that's an insult to me. If the board decides that, 100% of the rec committee is wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't have the best interests of the town.
Are you threatening the board that if we don't do what you wanna
No.
do, then,
I didn't say that.
is that where you're going? Is that where you're going?
Well, thank you very much for that, but that's not what I said.
no,
So what I'm saying is, it's kind of related to what Dennis was saying before. We have a hard time getting volunteers to sit on committees. And so I think you need to consider this carefully.
Let's go back to the safety issue. Are you saying that the courts right now are in an unsafe manner?
If somebody doesn't address all of the leaves and seeds and debris that falls on those courts, it definitely is a safety
Or
issue.
should we chain it and lock it?
I don't get that. What do you mean?
Well, if we're,
If you wanna play tennis, you have to clear, that court has to be clear.
well, we had discussed, and I thought that was relayed to the committee very clearly, that maintenance over there was the issue. We had a guy that was, I think, probably not living up to the contract, and he should take better care. He wasn't picking up the leaves, he was just mowing them into the grass, and he needs to blow that thing off. I think we even have a town blower, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I'm the operator.
yeah, I mean, listen, you look at the tennis, you look at the big picture, the whole town. We have nobody to take care of the grounds, we have nobody professional, we don't have any crew, we don't have any, and anytime you wanna make a change or do anything, the town turns it down. I mean, we have 2 people, maybe 3 people at the highway garage, part-time, they gotta take care of Fox Point, they gotta take care of the trails, they gotta take care of the ball fields, they gotta take care of the grounds around here. We do hire, it got so bad, we did hire a few years ago,
Cut
out
grass.
to do some cuts, some grass, something like that.
Right.
we spend a lot of money and spin a lot of wheels in this town, and we don't do it professionally. I think what you need is go back, you need somebody to come in here and do this professionally. And, 2 years ago or so, I recommended it at the town meeting, and I get blown right out of the water, but that's okay, I came back for some more, because I like to get blown out of the water, I guess, I don't know. But, you know, we need some, good guys, all good, but there's nobody professional as how to address these things.
So the chairman of the rec committee resigned today, not because of this, but it's because, you know, she's got a full plate, and,
That's a great loss. You
and
lost a
it's,
great
it's
loss.
hard, it's hard to find people to do, they do a lot of good stuff for the
That's
town.
important, absolutely.
Yeah,
In terms of your email, damage to the courts, there's projected damage, but not actual damage.
No, I mentioned, it's in there, if you read it, it's
Yes,
a limb
I did.
was leaning on the fence
I
and
did.
damaged it, we had to trim the limb before
Correct,
and repair the damage.
correct, and trimming and repairing preserves the landscape as well as the tennis courts. And to speak to the damage, what appears to be happening is the inconvenience of debris and leaves falling on the court, which can be cleared in order to utilize the court versus cutting trees down.
So I just wanted to
thank you.
come and
Thank you for
present
a lot of
that information to you, and
I think what we should do, Mr. Chairman, is, talk about this some more, so do you wanna table it at this point? or-
Fine, you wanna make a motion to table?
Make a motion
I
to
think
table.
we should have an arborist go over there and look at the tree.
I recommended that.
Okay, we can do that instead if you
No,
want.
have them both. Table it until
Let's
after.
table until the arborist looks at it.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yep.
You go along with that? Okay, that's what we'll do. I'll
All
table.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh,
Okay, thank you, Bill.
excuse me for
not Thank you.
hanging around for the rest of it.
One thing I'd like to say about that, is our town has been volunteers, our town has been about 700 people, 750 people for a long time, and what's made this town very financially the way it is volunteers. And
No
it
question.
means, if you gotta pick up a broom or a rake to move some stuff, you just do it, because that's how small, that's what we are, we're a small town.
Call the neighborly.
And if you're gonna use the court, expect to put a little
Okay.
time into it.
I think with the end of discussion on the court, we have a motion made and tabled. Our next business is waiting for Eric to come in on
Can I
Eversource.
take 5 and use the bathroom,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Next 5 minutes.
Thank you.
And Mark's Paul.
Turn it off to do this,
5
I'm letting go.
5.
being in meeting.
I got it. We're gonna take a recess.
Yes.
You say so.
Got it?
Yeah.
Dennis?
I know, I just
That's all. Well, let's do that.
Talk to it.
Fix the thing.
Oh.
I took it down, but I didn't know how to. I didn't know what to do myself. Oh, it was flashing.
No, whatever you
Oh,
have
my
to do is
God,
fine.
the tree down there, the recreation committee was gonna be gone.
School.
Look good that way?
Oh, Ted, that's really good.
Huh?
Good job. It's good to have someone tall, isn't it?
I used to have to learn how to set it. Oh, look at that. Wow.
It's gonna take them a long.
Oh,
No, he figured it out.
5, 06.
Now you gotta go around them in not minutes.
Oh.
You have to go higher, you gotta go higher. Keep going.
How many win?
Do you have to? 5 is 5.
I
Well, it was
figured
5:03 a minute ago.
Oh, I
I'm just
thought it
adding
was
a
four
minute.
55 when we took the thing, it was 5:03?
5:05 right now.
Oh, thank you.
I put the wrong time for the recess.
I make a motion that we get Ted a class on training on how to set a clock.
Yes.
5:05,
5:05.
Thank you.
is that all right?
Go get
Don't
Sean.
touch the clock again.
I won't, I
This,
won't touch.
this on recording?
Yes, it's still on.
Oh, jeez.
I like what Shell's doing with the budget.
Oh, yeah, she's doing a good job. Very good, that's something.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, you know why, it's, we should get baseball gloves like the Red Sox.
Is